Hello YouTube and welcome to another TV anime review. After the slight movie intermezzo in last review, it is time to finally review the final anime that I had to do for fall 2018, just in time since the winter season of 2019 is about to end. And the final anime from the previous season that I still had to review was Irozuku Sekai no Ashita Kara, or Iroduku the World in Colors. Now, Iroduku was made by PA Works, and if you know my reviews a little bit, then you know that I really love PA Works. It's up there in my top 5 of favorite animation studios, and I haven't really seen a bad anime from them yet. So, of course, I did have some expectations for this anime. Iroduku takes place in a future 60 years from now, and it is a pretty realistic world with the twist that the use of low-level magic is an everyday thing. It is in this world that we meet the 17-year-old Hitomi Tsukishiro. But Hitomi, unfortunately for her, is colorblind. Her world is totally grey and dull. And because of that and also some other things, she is actually pretty depressed. Her life is very grey and dull, and she doesn't really have a future for herself. Until one evening, when Hitomi's grandmother Kohaku, who is some sort of grand witch, uses high-level time magic to send Hitomi back into the past 60 years to the year 2018. In 2018, Hitomi meets the teenage version of her grandmother. Now, Hitomi has no idea why her grandmother sent her back into the past, but the young version of her grandmother is determined to find out, and also to find a way to send Hitomi back to the future where she belongs. Before I start the review, I have to warn you that I will tell spoilers about Iroduku in this video. So if you haven't seen this anime yet, then I advise you to actually go watch the anime and then come back to my review for my opinion on it, or skip straight to my conclusion to see what I thought of it. I will try to keep my points rather compact since I have quite a few that I want to mention, and otherwise this video is going to be way too long. But the first thing that I always have to comment on in a PA Works anime is the animation style and quality. PA Works, in my opinion, together with Kyoto Animation, delivers some of the best quality animation in the anime world, and Iroduku was no exception. This anime was super beautifully animated. The animation was very sharp, very smooth, and generally just the style that I really like. And also PA Works, in all of their animes, they use colors very well, which is kind of ironic in this anime. But the way how they use their colors is always very good. And every anime they produce always has very pretty animation. And as I said, Iroduku was no exception to that. The second thing that I also always have to comment on in a PA Works anime is the opening sequence. Because the opening sequence is always something special in a PA Works anime. Every time that I watch a PA Works anime, I am always attracted to the opening sequence, and I think, damn, that is a good opening sequence. They're just different than your day-to-day opening sequences, which usually don't really carry a lot of meaning. But in a PA Works anime, the opening sequence is always very meaningful. I always have the feeling that the opening sequence wants to tell something about the actual story of the anime itself. And they did it again here in Iroduku. If you want to see another very good example of that, that is if you watched Charlotte by PA Works. Also there I was completely flabbergasted by the opening sequence. My third positive point is the overall setting of the anime. In my story part at the beginning of the video, I said that it takes place in a pretty realistic world with a little magic twist to it. Well, there is somebody else who always uses this pattern in the stories that he writes, and that is Jun Maeda. Now, if you don't know who Jun Maeda is the writer of many blockbuster stories, both visual novel and animes like Angel Beats, Clannad, Air, Kanon, Charlotte, and all the famous titles, all the famous sad titles. And he is my personal anime god. I love every anime that he writes, or every story that he writes. So I immediately felt at home watching Iroduku because I saw the same setting that I saw in many other Maeda animes that I really loved. And before I move to the very important positive points about the story, one more small, let's say not so important, but still pretty significant positive point for me, that was Asagi. Asagi was cute as hell in this anime, best girl of the anime, and probably best girl of the season. For the story part of this review, I will for now focus on, let's say, the 4-5 final episodes of the anime. I will get back to the first episodes a bit later in this review. But the final 4 to 5 episodes, there where, in my opinion, this anime really became good. That is where this anime turned into the romance, drama, coming of age genre that I truly love. And I was amazed by these final episodes. I mean, like amazed in terms of this is what I really like to watch in anime. This is the story that I love and why I still love anime till today. And that accumulating storyline all came together in the final episode. And the final episode is a final episode that I will remember for a bit, because you can't say that this anime has a happy ending. First of all, the final episode, the way how it was built, it reminded me a lot of the final episodes of Angel Beats and Anohana the Flower we saw that day. Two of, let's say, the most sad animes that I have ever watched. But this story doesn't have a happy ending. This has an ending that has kind of a sweet sour taste to it. And those are the endings that I kind of love and will remember for a long time. Not that I have anything against, let's say, pure happy endings. I also love a happy ending to an anime. But an ending like this that has like this bitter sour aftertaste, that is something that I will remember for a longer period. And in this case, that was definitely the case for Yuito. The ending for Yuito is kind of sad. I mean, the final episode starts with a monologue from Yuito that kind of pierced through my heart. I mean, he was talking about how he now has to live with himself, how he has to live his life, now that the one that he loves, Hitomi, is gone forever. My first negative point about Iroduku can be found in the first half of the anime, because the first half of Iroduku was rather boring in my opinion. And I think because of that, a lot of people might have quitted this anime like after 3 episodes or after half of the anime, which is kind of a shame, because the anime becomes so much better towards the end. And I think that is because the anime doesn't get to the main question of the story until those final 4 episodes. And the main question that I was also asking myself ever since the first episode was the gigantic time paradox. I mean, Hitomi meeting the younger version of her own grandmother, that is a gigantic time paradox. So we knew that they had to solve that ever since the first episode, but they didn't really get to that until those final 4 episodes, when the anime for me went from like a 5 to a 9. And my second negative point is that the ending, despite being very memorable and in my opinion pretty well written, it leaves me hanging on certain topics. For instance, there is no conclusion on the possible relationship between Kurumi and Chigusa, and also on the possible relationship between Asagi and the club president. There is never any conclusion on that, but the most important thing where this anime leaves me hanging is on Yuito. Okay, the only thing we get on Yuito in the final episode is that sad monologue at the beginning that I mentioned. But after that, we don't know anything about Yuito. We don't know how he moved on after Hitomi returned to the future. I would have loved to see in the final episode some kind of meetup between Hitomi and all the other characters who would have been of very high age, of course. But then I would have had peace with this ending, knowing that Yuito moved on after Hitomi's departure. But now I have nothing. I don't know how Yuito moved on. And that is what leaves a very bitter taste in my mind when I think about the ending of Iroduku. But at the same time, as I mentioned, that is what made this anime, to me, quite memorable. So as conclusion, Iroduku was an anime that started out like as a 5 out of 10 to me, and that I didn't really have a lot of expectations anymore for the rest of the anime. But then in the final third it became really good, it became a story that I love, and like a 9 out of 10. And that is to me like really enjoyable in watching seasonal anime. I love to discover like these dark horse animes that I don't have a lot of expectations from when I started, but then when it blows up in my face and becomes something that I absolutely adore. So that is why I am going to rate Iroduku the World in Colors at a very well deserved 4.5 out of 5 stars. I mean, that might seem like a high score, but I love this kind of stories, and also the animation was really well done. I loved the animation, I loved the story, and overall it was a much better anime than I initially anticipated. So if you like the coming of age romance drama genre, then Iroduku is an anime that you should watch. If you liked Iroduku the World in Colors, then I recommend watching 2 other PA Works animes, being Nagino Asukara or A Lull in the Sea and Charlotte. Both of them are also very nice PA Works animes, and they also kind of deal a bit with time travel in their own way. But a different anime that I definitely recommend watching is Orange. Now, Orange, you will read a lot of crap about Orange if you go searching online on people's opinions on this anime. I have to admit the animation sometimes wasn't good. I'm gonna be totally honest, sometimes it was bad. But people also really complain about the story and the way how the main female character acted. I strongly disagree with those people, as I talked about elaborately in my review on the anime. In my opinion, Charlotte is a very mature coming-of-age anime, and I definitely recommend watching it. And with that, I conclude my review of Iroduku the World in Colors. If you want me to review a particular anime or have a recommendation for an anime that I definitely should watch, please leave it in the comment box down below. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, visit me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to this channel for more reviews in the future. Then I will say arigatou gozaimasu, and I will see you all in the next video.